Okay, can I continue?
Yes, yes, please, Pastor.
So in Chinese philosophy, you have, like in Confucianism, you have Li, the principle, and you have Qi, the form. So this Li, which is here Fa, the Dharma, and the definition of Dharma, I think I have mentioned in Abhidharma, is Svabhava Dharayate. It is that which has own nature. That which has own nature, that is Dharma. That is the definition of Tishulun, of Abhidharma Kosha. Now, in Abhidharma, no matter whether in the Sarvastivada Abhidharma, in Theravada Abhidharma, in Sautrantika Abhidharma, you have then different self-nature. You have the mind, which has different self-nature. You have the mental factors, which have all different self-nature. You have the different rupas, they also different forms, which also have, the form has also different self-natures. The self-nature of the earth is different from self-nature of water, fire, and wind, and so on. Self-nature of the color is different from the self-nature of the taste, and so on and so on. So you have many, many different self-natures. Now we come to the non-dualistic approach to understanding of Buddhism and understanding of Buddhist philosophy. So you cannot have many different self-nature. When you practice Vipassana, you have to define the Pie Xiang and Zhong Xiang, the different characteristics of different dharmas and the common characteristics of all dharmas, which are impermanence, the suffering of impermanence or the discomfort in impermanence, then the selflessness of impermanence, then in Sarvastivada also the emptiness, in Theravada the impure nature of that which is impermanent and suffering. This is little different, but basically the same. The four characteristics of the dharmas, but actually, finally, it boils down to one characteristic, which is anatman, the non-self. Because impermanence does not belong to nirvana. Nirvana is also dharma, which has its own characteristic. So you cannot apply impermanence and suffering to nirvana, but you can apply non-self to nirvana. So basically, you have this idea of non-self, of being the one characteristic of the all dharmas. You have even in the Abhidharma. You will find something similar explanation in Cheng Shalun. So in non-dualistic philosophy, and this treatise is one of the most important treatises explaining the non-dualistic philosophy and non-dualistic meditation. This non-self being characteristic of the created and the non-created is actually can be also understood as emptiness. In the Madhyanta Agama of the Sarvastivadin, you will find also the sutra which you don't have in Theravada, which explain the emptiness being the ultimate reality. Kung Jujin Fa Jing, I think. So all these ideas, we should understand they are not really opposing the Abhidharma, but they are further elaboration of the ideas which you will find also in Abhidharma. But they adopt from the beginning the non-dualistic approach. This non-dualistic approach is very common in Chinese philosophy. You have this like principle, Li, and Li cannot be separated from Qi. So Qi manifests as yin and yang. So yin and yang cannot be separated from Wu Qi, which is ungraspable, which is empty of whatever content you can grasp by form. But yet it is inseparable from the form, right? So in the veneration of the triple gem, we find the actually you will find the characteristics of the Buddha are more or less the same as the characteristics of the Dharma. You will find this principle in the again in the Madhyanta Agama, in the Sutra of the footprint of the elephant, that one who sees Dharma sees a Buddha, one who sees Buddha sees a Dharma, but it is not explained. The Buddha Gosa does not explain, but it is very important. It is of utmost importance. So actually the characteristics of the Buddha are the same as the characteristics of the Dharma. So you will find the veneration of the Buddha is the veneration of the Dharma, and veneration of the Sangha is the veneration of those who practice according to the Dharma, which is according to the Buddha. So they then reconcile the contradictions. One who is a Sangha, he reconciles the contradictions. So that's why he keeps the us beings together. That is a function of the Sangha. And he reconciles the contradictions because he understands the Buddha and the Dharma as being inseparable. This is very important. So we have now in this second part, you will come also to the Trinity, Ti, Xiang, Yong, the essence, the attributes of the essence or characteristics of the essence. This Xiang has two meanings, the characteristics and attributes in Western philosophy. And then whatever has characteristics and essence, it must have the function. Without the function, this essence is useless. Right? So we will see in the second part, he is in a way continuing what he is explaining in the first part. We come again to the same idea of Ti, Xiang, and Yung being inseparable. And now we come to this second part. Let us read it. I will try my best to translate it. I don't have the translation here. So he says, we have explained this first part, being the causes and conditions for writing this treatise. Now let us explain the establishing the meaning part as following. And now comes a very important saying. As far as Mahayana is concerned, the Mahayana is of two kinds. Then he asks the question, what two kinds? And he explains, very important. All the following actually is an explanation of this non-dualistic approach. So when we want to understand Mahayana, we have to understand these two parts as being inseparable. When you separate them, then it is not Mahayana. And Fa, here actually we have learned before the Dharma, that means that which holds its own characteristic, is nothing but the suchness, tathata, genru, that is Dharma. And this Dharma has many synonyms. The Dharmakaya, the body of the Dharma, the Dharma Dhatu, the element of the Dharma, the Fashin, the Dharmata, the truth of the Dharma. And here we have explained this treatise belongs to the Vaishya, to the Chitta Matrata, the mind only philosophy. And mind only philosophy, you have, so to say, two branches. You have one branch explaining the dependent origination on the base of alaya consciousness, which is impermanent. And you have another branch explaining the dependent origination on the base of Buddha nature, on the base of which is called in Sanskrit Tathagata Garbha, the metrics of the Tathagata. And Tathagata is suchness. One who sees a Buddha sees a suchness. One who sees the suchness sees a Buddha. And the suchness, Tathagata, is a one who comes in suchness and goes in suchness. Tatha agata, tathagata. Both. He comes in suchness, goes in suchness. That means he appears, but this appearance is not a real appearance, because suchness cannot appear. It has no definite form. And it disappears, but it does not really disappear. So this coming and going is like a shadow. It is not real. This is very important to understand. So the Fa here means basically the matrix of Tathagata, the suchness, which is a true being of all the phenomena, of all the beings, especially of the mind, which is the base for all the phenomena. Without the mind, you don't have any phenomena whatsoever. So we have a phenomena, we have an object, and we have the meaning because we have mind. The mind is that creates the object and creates the meaning. the world without the mind, without the beings. Yeah. The mind without the world without the mind has no meaning. The mind is that which gives meaning to the world. This is very important to understand. And the mind, which here is the suchness, the Tathagata Garbha, the true nature of the Dharma element, Dharma Dhatu, the emptiness. All this is the synonym of Dharma, but it is inseparable from the objects we experience and from the meaning of these objects. The Artha, this section is called establishing the meaning. So the Artha is inseparable from the Dharma. And the Dharma we have seen here is the suchness. In other words, you cannot separate emptiness from the phenomena we are experiencing and from the meaning of these phenomena we are experiencing. They are experienced on the basis of the Dharma, which is the Buddha nature. I hope this is clear. This is a crucial part for our understanding of this treatise. You cannot separate the Dharma, which is suchness, which is general, from the meaning or from the object that we experience. If you separate them, then you don't understand non-dual meditation. You don't understand non-dual philosophy. So this is really a great challenge for those who want to understand a non-dual approach to philosophy, to meditation. It is not so easy at all to understand that our objects and our meanings appear together and inseparable from emptiness. And in order to understand this, you have to practice the meditation, which is explained here, the meditation on the I Ching Sanmei, the Sanmei of one mind, moment by moment. If there is object or is no object, if there is thought or there is no thought, it is the same non-dual mind, where if it is Mahayana, which is non-dualistic, Mahayana cannot be dualistic. So you have to have the object and emptiness, you have to have the meaning and emptiness at the same time. This is very difficult. To realize it actually, when you realize it actually, you will become the Tishan Bosa. You will become a realized bodhisattva. We are bodhisattvas by aspiration, but most bodhisattvas, even the very great practitioners, even His Holiness Dalai Lama and Shenyan Fashe, Shinyan Tashe, all they may say that I am Fan Fu. Because this, to understand that what we experience as object and what we experience as meaning of object appears together with emptiness, which you cannot grasp. So if you want to understand non-dualistic philosophy, what we grasp is not the reality. What we grasp are our concepts of reality. The reality is ungraspable, and it is beyond real differentiation. In reality, the differentiations, they are like shadows which we grasp. They are not real. Yet, without differentiation, without meaning, without objects, we cannot understand emptiness. And we cannot understand objects, we cannot understand meanings without emptiness. They are inseparable. So this treatise explains that if you really separate emptiness and the meaning, which is objects, also, whenever object appears, so in the mind, the impermanence appears. When the object does not appear in, how does the object appear in the mind? Because we think about it. We nien, I nien samadhi is ishing samadhi. The samadhi, moment by moment, is the samadhi of one formation. And one formation is seeing that this true meaning, which is suchness, and whatever we experience in terms of objects and the meaning of those objects, they are inseparable. They are two aspects of the same reality. That is non-dualistic approach. So this is very crucial for our understanding, our meditation, if we want to attain non-dualistic samadhi, if we want to understand the Chinese tradition, Tian Tai, Huayan, Chan, all is based on this idea of non-dualistic samadhi. Without the non-dualistic samadhi, you cannot realize the bodhisattva Buddhahood. As we have explained, there are three kinds of Buddhas. The Arahat Buddha, who is called the listener, the Shavakan. Then you have the Pratyeka Buddha, the Buddha for himself. Then you have the Bodhisattva Buddha. The realization of the Bodhisattva Buddha is based on this understanding. You cannot separate the object and the meaning of the object which appear in the mind. There is no other place where they can appear, as being inseparable from suchness. So this comes to the very contradictory sayings, like the kleshas are bodies are the kleshas. The Vimalakirti teaches that the Dharma is inseparable from greed, from anger, and from ignorance. This is very difficult to understand because we have such a deep tendency to rely on our discrimination, on our differentiation as being the objective picture of reality. But the objective picture of reality in this tradition, in Madhyamika, in Yogacara, both, the objective picture of the reality, that it has to bring the object and emptiness together in the same moment. They are not separate moments. That is Mahayana. The meaning and suchness, they cannot appear at the different times. Whenever there is meaning, whenever there is object, there is also suchness. So there is only one reality. There are all these 2, 3, 4, 5, many different realities. They are the skillful means for understanding one reality. So understanding one reality, you can attain the great nirvana as opposed to the small nirvana based on correct differentiation. The Arahat, the Pratyeka Buddha, they have the correct differentiation. When we practice non-dualistic approach, the correct differentiation is only skillful means to realize that which is beyond differentiation. And beyond differentiation does not mean that it is contrary to the differentiation. It comes at the same time. It can come at the same time. When the mind is empty, when we do not think, the mind is empty. Wu nian 就是心空. When we nian, when we think something, the mind is also empty. It is not different. And this is what is to be realized. This is very difficult realization. So for that, first thing that we have to develop is a faith in this non-dualistic reality as being our own nature. That's why the Tarshan Chishin Lun. And Tarshan is defined as the Dharma, which is Tathagata Dharma, which is suchness, which is emptiness, and the object. Without the object, you have no meaning. And they have to appear as two aspects of the same reality. Here, Mahayana, your we can translate as two aspects. So, in their nature, the object and the meaning of the object that we experience, the object comes to our mind. It can never be experienced separately. Just like in the sun, whatever object appears, it has a shadow. But this, what we are grasping at is actually the shadow. This is what is to be realized. So, why grasp it? We grasp it because of our sichi, because of our vasana, because of our habits. But right before the cat was coming around the computer, it has a very different habit from ourselves. But it is also firmly convinced that the reality that it experiences is a true reality. Similarly, we are very firmly convinced that the reality we experience is a true reality because we can understand it conceptually, but the conceptual understanding without the suchness has no, as far as non-dualistic philosophy is not a real understanding. It's understanding of the shadow. So this definition is very, very important. That is why establishing the meaning and the essence, the Ti and the Xiang, they cannot be separated. If you separate them, you are practicing dualistic vision. Now, even so, we do not see it in this way. We have to give faith that this indeed is the true nature of our mind, non-dualistic nature. In this non-dualistic nature, this mind and body can never be separated. From the very beginning, they were always together. Similarly, the nirvana is samsara in non-dualistic understanding. You cannot also strictly separate. Here nirvana, here is samsara. If you do that, the full Buddhahood, you can never attain the true realization. You can never really kaiwu. So that is why, even though you do not see this non-dualistic truth of our experience, how do we see it? We give rise to bodhicitta. And we practice bodhicitta. I don't liberate just myself, I liberate all beings. I don't remove only my own defilements, I remove defilements of all beings. I study all the dharmas, all the objects helpful for beings to realize this non-dual nature of our mind. And so even the arts, languages, philosophy, logic, medicine, all this is very useful. But it has to come together with knowledge of emptiness. Then it becomes parami. The upaya kaushalyam parami. The fountain follow me. So in order to get into some understanding of the non-dualistic philosophy, we have to prepare our mind. Even so, we have not yet realized that emptiness and the mind are inseparable, that emptiness and the objects and meanings we experience are inseparable. We have to give rise to this belief that this is indeed so, it cannot be different. So we study the scriptures, we study Nagarjuna, Lunshu Bosa, we study Chittamatrata, Wujuo Bosa, Yichie Shatilun, and so on, to understand that what we see are actually concepts. The reality, the true reality, we cannot attain by dualistic mind. This is the meaning of Poje Polomi Shinching we are chanting every day. So let us come back to the text. What we call Dharma, Suoyen Fajr, he defines as the mind of the beings. Zhongshan Xin. So the Dharma is the mind of the beings. The mind of the beings is inseparable from the Buddha, inseparable from the suchness. So he introduces us to the Tathagata Garbha philosophy. The mind of the beings is the Dharma, and the Dharma is the Buddhahood innate in all beings. And he says this mind, the true mind, the suchness mind, which comes and goes without grasping, which appears moment by moment without grasping. That mind summarizes all worldly phenomena and all the supermundane phenomena. So in the non-dualistic philosophy, we have the mundane phenomena, which is the samsara phenomena. We have the supermundane phenomena, which is the nirvana as opposed to samsara. And we have the non-dualistic reality. This non-dualistic reality, you cannot say that it is worldly. You cannot say that it is supermundane, because it surpasses all differentiations. So it is unattainable by differentiations. We have to realize it directly by intuition. And that we can only do when we develop the faith, give rise to the faith, develop the faith, develop the bodhicitta. The practice of non-dualistic meditation is the development of bodhicitta, is the development of the enlightened mind, literally. The enlightened mind is the very nature of the mind, is inseparable from the nature of the mind. But we do not see it because our Tathagata Garbha, our Buddha nature, is with obstacles. When we become the Bodhisattva Buddha, this our non-dual nature will be without obstacles. But now it is without obstacles, so our own nature, our innate Buddhahood, we can only experience with obstacles. But we have to believe that it is there. And this is the base of our practice. So our non-dualistic practice is developing the bodhicitta, developing the non-dualistic mind, developing the enlightened mind, which in its nature is not different from all the Buddhas, and is not different from all the phenomena also. Because we can only understand all objects in terms of our thoughts. And the nature of our mind is not different than the nature of the Buddha's mind. But our mind does not see it because of the obstacles in form of these vasanas of our habits. Our habits are all dualistic habits, and we cannot do actually without these dualistic habits, but we have to understand that they are just like shadows. We cannot truly rely on them because the reality cannot be grasped by vasanas, by our habitual tendencies. It has to be grasped by that which surpasses our habitual tendencies. And that is the Buddha nature. So this Mahayana, which has two aspects, the aspect of suchness and the aspects of the objects and meanings which appear to our mind, is really a mind of the beings. And this true mind of the beings, the matrix of the Tathagata, the innate Buddhahood, it contains all the worldly and supramundane realities, because we have learned it can bring that which is phenomenal and that which is beyond phenomenal differentiation together. This is non-dualistic understanding. So, very great challenge indeed to never lose mindfulness. Mindfulness, when something appears in the mind, that the emptiness appears. When nothing appears in the mind, we cannot separate it from emptiness. When something appears in the mind, we cannot separate it from the emptiness. Emptiness is the only reality. There is no second reality. So all the realities, four noble truths, the five aggregates, all the realities, they are skillful means to lead us to one reality. And in one reality, we cannot separate the mind with object from the mind without object. That is the samadhi of Yi Nian, the samadhi of Yi Xing. So, what is the difference between the Buddha, no matter whether Arahat Buddha, Pratyeka Buddha, or Bodhisattva Buddha, and us? We can lose our mindfulness, but the Buddha, he can never lose our mindfulness. He can never lose mindfulness. But this mindfulness for a listener, for a disciple, it is a mindfulness of separate entities. For those who practice bodhicitta, it is a mindfulness of the inseparable nature of our experience. All entities, they are inseparable from emptiness. All objects that appear in the mind are inseparable from emptiness. And all the meanings which appear in our mind are also inseparable from emptiness. That's why the ignorance is also emptiness. The wisdom is also emptiness. Anger is also emptiness. The lack of anger is also emptiness. The greed is also emptiness. The non-greed is also emptiness. This is a non-dualistic understanding. The kleshas are also emptiness. They arise in emptiness, cease in emptiness. Just like the mind, which arises and ceases in emptiness. So this is Yi Nian Nian, Yi Nian Nian Xin. That moment by moment, we have to protect our mind. The job of emptiness is to protect our mind. This the explained in the Amas, explained in Dhammapada. The mind, the Dhammapada says the well-protected, only the well-protected mind gives happiness. Here, the well-protected mind is a mind which understands that all the objects and meanings that arise, they arise inseparable from emptiness. So the meaning of actually of the uh, mindfulness, which is the key to wisdom, also changes. And mindfulness is explained as being the only way. But the only way here is to protect your mind, to be mindful, by understanding that whatever object, whatever meaning appears in our mind is indeed inseparable from emptiness. There is no one who actually can separate them. This is the true nature of our experience. This is the true nature of non-self. So we see these same words, but they acquire different meaning in a different context. So the context of mindfulness is quite different in this. The mindfulness is mindfulness that the Mahayana is when Fa and I, the emptiness and the objects and meanings, they cannot be separated. If we separate them, we cannot realize bodhicitta. So that is why establishing the essence, the next part will explain, is the explanatory part, how to understand this essence in the mind process. What we experience as reality is a mind process. So he continues, on the base of this mind, which is the mind of the being, whose nature is emptiness, suchness, matrix of Tathagata, Buddha nature. We, on the base of this mind of all beings, which we also possess because we are beings, which the Buddha also possess, because Buddha cannot appear without some manifestation. So this mind of the beings, it is that which manifests, which reveals, Xian the meaning of Mahayana. Okay, we cannot understand the bodhicitta, we cannot understand the Mahayana, we cannot understand that our objects and meanings we experience are inseparable from emptiness without having the mind of the beings, which is the Dharma. And this, our mind of the beings, our Buddhahood is with obstacles, but we give rise to bodhicitta to realize that the real mind has no obstacles. Then he asks himself, why? And he answers, because this mind has the characteristics, lakshana, xiang, or a characteristic of suchness. So actually, this mind truly speaking, has only one characteristic of suchness. Whether it reveals things by with wisdom or with ignorance, with greed or without greed, with anger or without anger, with jealousy or without jealousy, it is inseparable from the suchness, because this very mind of beings is suchness in its nature. So this mind of the being has many, many different characteristics. Everybody has more ignorance or more wisdom or more anger or more greed or more jealousy or uh, more miserliness or and so on. In innumerable differences, they all characterized by suchness. Very difficult to understand, but at first we have to understand the logic of it and become familiar with it. Then we can truly practice the bodhicitta, arising of the enlightened mind. So this mind, the mind of beings, has the actually the characteristic of suchness, and in this characteristic of suchness, it manifests the essence, the tea of Mahayana. Or because in this characteristic, it manifests the essence of Mahayana. The essence of Mahayana is, we have seen that the essence and the characteristics are inseparable. That the Fa and its Xiang, they form one. The body and the mind form one. It does not mean in a Western philosophy that it is a monistic philosophy. It is beyond monism, beyond pluralism, because Pukhata, Wuso, Wuso, Ku, Boji, Sato, I, Pore, Polo, Mito, Ku, the Anu, Tolo, Samyak, Sampoti, Tepute. So, because we have this understanding, we can attain the supreme enlightenment, non-dualistic enlightenment. If we don't have this understanding, we cannot attain the supreme enlightenment. We work hard, but on the base of differentiation, we can only become arahats. Or when there is no Buddha in the world, we can become pratyeka Buddhas. But we cannot become bodhisattva Buddhas. Impossible. So this is a very deep meaning. Even so explained by a few words, it is very, very dense. So the next comes the explanation, which is the biggest part of this treatise, very, very extensive, and explaining all the different aspects to explain to us ignorant beings what we actually are and how to attain what we actually are. And it says, this mind of beings in its aspect, here Xiang can be translated as aspect, attribute, in this attribute of arising and ceasing on the base of causes and conditions, it is able to reveal Neng She Mahayana Ziti Xiang Yung in on the base of its nature of arising and ceasing due to causes and conditions. It is able to reveal, and here comes a very intriguing word, not only essence, but own essence. When you speak of own essence, you can only speak on the base of the object and the meaning of the object. But the Buddhahood, even so, it gives rise to all objects. Emptiness gives rise to all objects. It is not an object in itself. You cannot grasp emptiness. What we grasp as the object is the concept of emptiness. So you have emptiness of emptiness. But when there is arising and passing away, because we give rise to thought, nian, nian, so we will grasp this Mahayana on the base of this impermanent mind as having its own essence, as different from other essences, right? Therefore, Dziti, it will have its own characteristic as different from all other characteristics, innumerable characteristics. And it will have its own use, which is also different from other use. It will have unlimited use. So unlimited virtues. Just as the Daimon Sutra Tinkantin is explaining, when you give rise in emptiness, the virtues of that mind are innumerable. But if you give rise to the mind or to the virtues with the holding to differentiation as being something true, even if you give innumerable riches, still it won't be the same as having the mind which does not grasp anything. So this is the establishing the meaning, which is very, very important. All what follows is then slowly, slowly explaining you how to understand it in your own experience, in your own mind, with the help of the skillful means that he will explain. All that comes is then the explanation of the skillful means to realize what has been said in this part, in this establishing meaning part. When there is meaning, emptiness necessarily comes together with a meaning. When there is object, emptiness necessarily comes with the object. The object and emptiness, there is no one who can separate them. This is very difficult to grasp. So as far as we talk about the meaning, the meaning, it has also three aspects. Which three? The great meaning, the great meaning is that from the aspect of own nature, when we speak of own nature, we already differentiate. So from this aspect of the own nature, all the phenomena, here dharma has a meaning of phenomena. We have seen in the beginning it has a meaning of the Buddha nature of suchness, but here it has a meaning of the phenomenon. So this text is difficult to understand because he works on many different levels. So as I have mentioned, I think last week, mostly scholars believe that this text was not written by Ashwagosha, but Taishi Tasha believes that indeed it is written by Ashwagosha because it explains his unique realization. He is supposed to be the bodhisattva of the eighth stage, which is he can create reality according to his wish. Very incredible realization. So it can be attributed to Ashwagosha because Ashwagosha is indeed the great bodhisattva, and the bodhisattvas, great bodhisattvas, they are not, so to say, limited by the historical development. His mind has really penetrated the non-dualistic reality, like the mind of Nagarjuna, same. So he does not speak from a point of view of philosophy. He speaks from the point of view of his own experience. So this is how Taishi advocates the Ashwagosha as being the great bodhisattva. He cannot be missing in all the lineages of the bodhisattvas. When we learn Zen, true tradition, we had to learn in Japan from the Buddha through the Mahakashyapa, Ananda, the Bodhidharma, and up to the present teachers in China, Japan. It's a one lineage. In every lineage, there has to be Ashwagosha, Mayin. So he is a true realizer of the non-dual nature of the mind. So this essence of the real mind, it is a great essence because in it all the dharmas are equal. You cannot add anything to them, you cannot remove anything from them. So just like Nagarjuna starts explaining his treatise that I worship the Buddha who explained the dependent origination as unerosion, unceased, neither eternalistic nor nihilistic, neither coming nor going, and neither one nor many. So this is, in other words, this great essence. Essence of Buddhism is a dependent origination. And this from the point of view of this dependent origination, whose essence is emptiness, all the dharmas are equal. That's why you can do jungsen, because you don't condemn them, but you see the causes and conditions which are equal in their nature, of their ignorance or of their understanding. Very difficult, but we try. Now it has a great characteristics, the great attributes. That is to say, the Tathagata Garbha, the matrix of Tathagata, which this matrix of Tathagata, this is the Buddha nature in the mind of all beings. It is characterized by immeasurable virtues, just like the Daimon Sutra is teaching and so on. This mind, it has immeasurable virtues when it works with this immeasurable essence. Emptiness is the immeasurable essence of all the dharmas. And if we understand it as such, this immeasurable essence has immeasurable virtues. And it has immeasurable functions, the kriya, mahakriya, because it can give rise to all the worldly and supermundane good causes and conditions. Just as the Daimon Sutra explains, all the good, all the paramis, they belong to the essence. The true giving belongs to the essence, not to the beings. The true sila belongs to the essence, not to the beings. The true tolerance belongs to the essence, not to the beings. The true effort belongs to the essence. The essence is never lazy. The essence is never not concentrated. The essence is never deprived of of non-dualistic wisdom. So it gives rise to all the great favorite kushala causes and conditions. To, in other words, to all the paramis. This you will find in many Mahayana scriptures. All the paramis are based on the great essence and the use of the great essence. The beings, if they separate themselves from the whole, even if they do good deeds, they will have no power of kusala, of real good. The power of real good comes from understanding the great essence and the great characteristics. So all the Buddhas, so this is a vehicle that all the Buddhas are driving on. And all the bodhisattvas, they are using this vehicle to attain the supreme Buddhahood. There is no other vehicle to attain the supreme Buddhahood than the understanding of this non-dualistic nature of our experience. So this is the establishing the meaning part, which is the without this understanding, please go through it again and again. Without understanding it, the following is only the explanation of this essence, which is very hard to understand. So the author, who is supposed to be of such a high realization, who is a real, highly realized bodhisattva, he uses all kinds of skillful means to explain this essential meaning, that all the virtues which are inseparable from the true characteristics of our mind, which is metrics of Tathagata, and which is inseparable from Buddha, the real Buddha being the suchness, they actually are inseparable. So this is the real meaning of Mahayana. This is an understanding of inseparable nature of objects, meaning, and the Dharma, which here is a non-dualistic Dharma, the suchness. Suchness makes everything equal. So it gives the freedom from understanding of non-duality. You have the freedom of facing your own mind and facing the mind of all beings. So you can liberate yourself and liberate others without differentiation. This is the idea. You can benefit yourself, benefit others without a differentiation. This is the idea. So we have explained, he says, this second part, establishing the true meaning of this treatise, which is to be explained in the next part. And now we are explaining the explanatory part, which is the greatest body of this text. We will need a lot of time to go through it. And when we go through it, we have to come again and again back to this second part, because the second part is very essential for understanding what is being explained in the next part. And in the following part, that is a part of the practice of the paramis. So that much for today. I have spoken 1 hour and 15 minutes. So we have 15 minutes for discussion if there are any questions. And so we can go through them if there are no questions. So we will finish here. Any questions coming along?
Teman-teman gimana, ada yang mau bertanya?
Very, very bad voice. I cannot. Please kindly let me see if a mistake is with me.
Oh, sorry, Pastor. I have a very small voice. Mungkin teman-teman ada yang mau bertanya. Maybe friends, is there any question to Pastor?
I'm sorry, this maybe the battery is gone. I wonder what is the problem. Aha, it has switched off in some magic way. I don't know why. Now it is on, so I should hear you better. Please tell me again.
Oh,
What
okay. Now it's time for discussion. Friends, if you have any question,
if I have what?
is there? No, I just asked the other friends, is there any question want to ask to
Oh,
Pastor?
okay.
No?
Can you see me clearly?
Yes, yes, Pastor.
Yeah.
So, any questions coming along?
Sư phụ,
Yeah,
Or shall we leave
silakan.
the
你好
questions?
吗？
Yes.
师父，I have a question. First, 你好吗？
Okay. Could be better always, but what to do? We have to accept us as we are. So I am managing, okay.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I have a question that according to the text, this 大圣起心论, you say that is maybe from Asphagosa. So uh, if it's from Asphagosa, I assume that do we
There is,
have the original
I can't,
Sans?
something is wrong with the voice. I don't know what. Is it on your side or my side? Can you
No, my
hear me? I don't hear you clearly at all. Sorry. Huh? I don't know.
okay. My side is okay. I think I can hear you clearly.
Now I hear you with like if you were talking from the submarine. Huh?
So maybe without. Now it's okay.
Ini suaranya lebih oke. Ya,
Okay,
ya.
Okay.
Ya,
now
ini lebih oke.
maybe it's a too high voice, high pitch. Now, okay.
Okay, so for just short question now. Do we have the original text from the Sanskrit if it is truly written by Asvagosa?
Ashwagosha is the author of this treatise. And this treatise in Sanskrit is called Mahayana, the Shradotpada Shastra. Mahayana Shradotpada Shastra. It is, there is a tradition in Chinese sources that the original was lost in China and Xianzang has retranslated it into Sanskrit. But in India, nobody has heard of this text. So it is
Okay.
not mentioned in any catalogs, but it is strangely enough not even mentioned in the early catalogs in the Tang Dynasty.
Okay. So what I understand is there is no physical the real Sanskrit text, right?
The real Sanskrit, what do you mean?
And then the original Sanskrit text.
Original Sanskrit is not available.
Okay.
When you become Xianzang, please translate it into Sanskrit. You will be or Indian scholars will give you, Indian government will give you a prize. Because its language is very Chinese, so mostly scholars presume that it was written by some especially highly realized Chinese monk. But the highly realized people don't like to leave their names. And that's why we can never be sure even many scriptures attributed to Nagarjuna, to Asanga, and so on, they may be written by his disciples. We don't know. It was Buddhism was oral tradition. We have to understand. It was taught and remembered by the disciples, and they again orally transmitted this to others. The printing really started in the Sung dynasty, which is very late. This text was translated by two Chinese translators, Paramartha Genti and Shikshanando. All are similar time, the Tang Dynasty, 7th century, 8th century. At that time, no print. And this text is also not mentioned in the oldest catalogs. But it became inseparable part of the Chinese Tripitaka, but not of the Tibetan Tripitaka. The Tibetan, they don't have this text, but it is extremely important. And this year I'm going to teach it a little bit in Nepal, because this is very important text which they don't have. Okay, any other questions? So let us enjoy a wonderful evening. And we think about it, contemplate about it. It is indeed a very, very deep text and very condensed. You can see the meaning. You can write books about this meaning because it is so condensed, so dense, and so difficult to understand. If I have done anything in a not clarifying clearly, please, this is due to my lack of understanding. So please excuse me if I have not understood something or interpreted something not justifying. This is indeed a very difficult text, but I have tried my best. So I hope it was useful for you and we will be able to use it. And for me, it was this text was a great discovery. I went through it many times. I translated it into my own language, and we can study it for many, many years. And this was also the favorite text of Master Shen Yen. I discussed it with him and he wrote the introduction to my translation of this text when I was in Pakushan.
Pastor, allow me to ask you to use the time that's still left to ask a question.
Yes, please.
I listened to your other teaching. You teach about the Kumarajiva meditation text.
It is supposed to be published by Somaya University.
Okay.
But as you know, India, India is a mess. So somebody is said to be the head of the Buddhist department is said to be revising it and putting it into comprehensible form with my commentary and with the translation, but it has not come out, and I don't think it will come out in the visible future because
Okay, Pastor. In that teaching, you mentioned a few times about the cutting, the moment of cutting off the feathers. That is the middle way,
yes,
middle part moment, and you always refer it as in the early Buddhist text context. So if we relate to this Tathagata Garbha context, especially I would like to ask you about the occasion when the feathers were cut off. When it happened, when a person practice in the Tathagata Garbha context, is it different, or there's a similarity, or there is a resonance, or
the aim of a Buddhist practice of any true religion is attaining the purity of the mind. This is the same in Christianity. This is the same in Buddhism. The true reality is a pure mind. Now, this pure mind can be explained in a dualistic way as opposed to the impure mind, but it can also be explained in the non-dualistic way, because when we explain in non-dualistic way, you cannot strictly separate the pure mind and the impure mind. The impure mind and the pure mind, they belong to the same reality. They are not a different reality. So this has been explained in this text very clearly, that true reality, it transcends the separation between worldly and the supramundane. And when you separate it, you not only attain the pure mind for yourself, but you attain the pure mind for all beings. So in this perspective, when you become realized, all beings are realized, because you see their defilements not as something opposed to the natural state, but as something existing together with the natural state, but preventing them to see their natural state. So you lead them, the true Zen master is the one who leads you again and again to realization of your natural state, which is beyond separation. So you will find it in Huineng Sutra. All these differences, the flag is moving or the wind is moving, your mind is moving. When your mind is moving, you are creating illusions. When you are creating illusions, even so your illusions you take for real, they are not real. That is a purification of the mind. We are not deluded about the reality. We are deluded about the concepts of reality. In non-dualistic reality, the reality is ungraspable. This is the advantage of this approach. So you realize purity of the mind, not as separate from all beings, but in unity with all beings, in unity with gods, in unity with denizens of hell, in unity with all the hungry ghosts. That's why, like a Buddha, you can, these hungry ghosts and even the devils, they become the Dharma protectors. Because you don't take them separate from yourself. They are your friends on the Dharma. they are your teachers. The defilements are your teachers, not something to be removed, but something to be understood. Okay.
Once again, Pastor, just to want to a bit to clarify. Actually, personally, it is more easier for me to listen when you explain like the 9 stages of Samatha in Yogacara Bhumi Sastra. It is more real for me. So when you explain like that, the step is very real, but this Tata Gata Garbha is the non-dual difficult.
This is your taste. Somebody likes sweet, somebody likes bitter, somebody likes sour. That's all right, no problem. If you want to understand the non-dualistic meditation, it is extremely useful. This is maybe the most useful text, understand the non-dualistic nature of our experience. The shamatha is, even in Tiantai tradition, when the mind does not give rise to thoughts. When the mind gives rise to thought, it is vipassana. And the shamatha and vipassana, they are not separate, they are one. This is very deep meaning. But you can understand this deep meaning step by step. So that's why this essence you cannot understand without the explanation which comes next. Don't hurry, be patient, step by step. The author is beyond our intelligence. He explains in very clever way how to get into non-dualistic meditation. When do you get to non-dualistic meditation? You are always mindful. Then you are a Zen master.
Thank you, Pastor.
Okay.
So we meet again on
Saturday.
No, Sunday, Pastor.
Saturday. Because I'm leaving on the 8th.
Oh, okay.
It's better on Saturday because Sunday I have to prepare maybe, and there will be people coming to see me, and so we have agreed with Zara. No, Zara, I mix your name again. What is the name? The something. The coordinator. The
Viana?
Ziana.
Viana.
Ziana. Zian.
Wiana.
Oh, but then I got it wrong. How come?
It's okay. It's okay, Safu.
Aguzi sent me a different name. How come? Wait, I have to. Aguzi sent me the name. Zwiana. ZWIYAN.
It's okay. It's okay.
It becomes very complicated, so no wonder I am confused.
Uh-huh.